conversation and reflection. And I think it's a great opportunity for us to give a vote of thanks for the voices that have been on stage today and how inspired we sitting here actually feel. We've been speaking about this throughout the course of the day, and a lot of our thought processes are aligned. And maybe as women, we don't connect enough, and we actually share our stories enough, because there's so many similarities, and there's so much we can learn from one another. So yes, my name, sorry, I should start with that, is Samantha Getzos. I'm a lecturer in the Department of Public Law, Procedural Law. See, I was inspired by public law. Thanks so much. Lecturer in the Department of Procedural Law. I'm an admitted attorney of the High Court. I'm also a legal fellow, part of an NGO known as our Children's Trust, which works on strategic climate litigation involving youth. And that's part of my PhD that I'm currently working on. And from my perspective, we're each going to have very much an organic conversation. We're going to build on each other's lived experiences. So I'm going to get us going. And my message is really grounded in UP. So the panel before us really opened up this conversation very well. Our organizational culture at UP is make today matter. And that is really the message in my classroom. The finish line is yours. It's another one of our phrases. Fly at UP. And we've heard from the previous panel that we are adaptable as women. And the finish line can change. We have more than one finish line. So my career actually started very much simultaneously in legal practice as well as academia. I was finishing off my research masters when I started lecturing final year LLB students in practical law, and I just started my first year of practice within the profession. And I had a very unique opportunity to create opportunities for our community through community engagement, very unique opportunity to facilitate access to justice through final year law students. They were practicing the law under my name for the better part of 6 years. The student was my main focus. So I didn't actually step from practice into academia. I started my career in academia and practice simultaneously. I think that's what's unique about my careers, because it could have gone either way. I could have solely worked and gone straight into practice, but I was in a position which I hadn't planned for. And I really learned so much, so quickly. And my main take home for my students, I'm working with third year law students now, full-time in academia at the UP Faculty of Law, number one faculty in Africa. Shine, UP shine. As our deputy dean would always say. But it was my time in practice that shaped the way in which I ran my classroom. My lived experiences in practice gave me the understanding, the legal framework, the logic, the emotional resilience, I think, as well, something that we don't talk about enough. Especially working with members of the community. I see two of my candidate attorneys actually sitting in the audience there. Molotelo on stage here was at the law clinic as well. We work with the poorest of the poor, and that was very humbling, because we really had to situate ourselves in an environment where we are the catalyst to a resolution, something that's going to practically work on the ground. And I always say to my final year students, and I said it to my third years this year as well, the power in visualization. So I start my lectures every year with a court robe, a graduation hat with the tassel, and the graduation sash. Because if you cannot picture yourself first, your first finish line is an LLB graduate. You are the graduating class of 2020, 2021, 2022, whatever the case may be. Then your finish line shifts. Maybe you're doing articles, maybe you're doing your pupillage. What is your story? And I'm very aware of framing my influence within a space that can resonate with any one of you. My voice is there to mentor your step up, be it into the profession, be it into becoming an attorney or an advocate, equipping you with contextual legal education. That's what procedural law is. That's our department, is really giving you the skills, the transferable skills and the competency to do the job that you will be employed to do. So wherever your finish line is, you really need to think about, are you able to work within that space? Mentally, emotionally, physically, intellectually, are you curious enough to build a career? I heard one of our speakers, I think she's sitting over there, actually say, our keynote speaker, building your personal brand. Branding is exceptionally important. I started my branding when I joined UP. I resonate with UP's organizational culture, from a student right through to an employee. And I remember stepping into the admin building to register as a BA law student, first in LLB, and the clerk behind us paying my registration fees, posing the question to me, what do you want to be when you grow up? And I thought, well, what do I want to do? This is the first day, my mom's here, I walked on campus with my mother. And I said, I want to lecture in the UP Faculty of Law. Mine's a unique story where everything aligned to that point. But studying my LLB wasn't about that. Studying my LLB was about building life lessons, skills. There's so many fields of law. It's teaching you how to live your life. So something has to resonate with you if you're going to dedicate your career to this. So yes, every year I start my lectures with asking for a volunteer to robe up, to step into your power, wearing that robe. Whether you decide to do that in future or not, you're going to be a graduate first, and you should take ownership of that robe. We put on the sash, we put on the hat, and then it's literally hats up to UP graduating class. And the power of that image, and the support of their fellow students. That's my message today. As women, we have a unique perspective. And our perspective comes from our lived experiences. And we really have to lean into that and share that, giving others the permission, opportunity to really step up onto their podium and explore that space. Mentorship was mentioned today. Mentorship is extremely valuable. And that's why I don't see myself really as a lecturer. We're mentoring the way in which you craft your own written and legal arguments. Knowing when you should concede, how to logically approach this, how do we evaluate, interpret, apply the law. Mentorship, networking, like our Dean of Law said, you're going to be working in these spaces a lot. It's not a, I'll do this for you, do that for me. We have to create a community of support. So today was very powerful for me. I think it's a stepping stone. This is the second year, if I'm correct, that this has been hosted. It's a stepping stone in how, and an invitation really, for us to connect with one another and drive these conversations into action. All right, thanks so much.
Hi everyone, mine's going to be short and sweet. My name is Dr. Lisa Olaho. I am a law prelect and damages lecturer for the third and final years. Very briefly, I see some of the third year students panicking over securing articles. What am I going to do? What should I do? My mom and dad, family and friends expect me to be an attorney or be admitted, be an advocate. Right, so at the South African Law Teachers Conference earlier this year, I submitted and presented a proposed paper titled, I Don't Want to Be a Lawyer, Career Paths for LLB Graduates. So I'm not going to expand on that. Maybe just keep an eye out for it. There are a lot of options to pursue after studying law. That doesn't necessarily include practicing it. There are other things out there, and I think our students, especially our undergrads, even some postgrads, need to be made aware of these options. More than that, if you live your passion, you won't work a day in your life. And that speaks to work-life balance and burnout as well. If you're doing what you like and love, I believe you'll be less prone to burnout and balancing issues. It was touched on earlier today, but that's my message in conclusion. I know we're all a bit tired, it's been a long and hot day, so I'll leave you with that. Thank you.
Feeling the pressure to also keep it very brief, and I will try. Hello everyone, my name is Tebello Motshwane. My pronouns are she and her, and my journey did end in admitted attorney of the High Court of South Africa. I traversed my journey towards admission at UP. I graduated with my LLB from UP. I did my articles at the UP Law Clinic, and I did my law school at the UP Business Enterprises. And I'm not done, Prof. Skuman. The council that moved my admission application successfully so was my law house chairperson when I was in first year, Advocate Lizwaro. And so I really fully feel like I'm a product of this institution. To take it a bit back, I come from a home where there are no lawyers. My parents were both civil servants, my mother was a social worker, my dad worked in state finance, and so essentially I didn't benefit or inherit a network of solid lawyers and other sorts of legal practitioners. I had a very rude awakening that I needed to build that network myself, and so I did just that. And I think in my second year, somebody called Mamsima Phakela, she definitely set in motion a series of events that just changed the trajectory of my life. She was actually my matric SRC when I was in grade 8, and somehow our paths crossed when we got to University of Pretoria, and she invited me to join her in forming UP Women in Law. And so we were the founding members. And I headed the academics portfolio, and in that portfolio we organized a speed mentoring event, literally with the same model of speed dating, very rapid, quick sessions with mentors. And that particular event is what opened me up to the various possibilities that lay ahead for me within the legal fraternity, but never mind beyond me starting my career, but also particularly while I was still at university. On that day, we had judges from the Constitutional Tribunal. We also had law researchers from the Concord, and just a variety of people that definitely inspired me. Later in that year, attended a workshop by Tebello Motshwane, the sister-in-law workshop. That also opened me up to how I can actively master the skill set of putting myself out there, interacting with fellow colleagues, and really building networks that are sustainable, right? And not just the once-off interaction. And so ultimately, when I did finish, I, like I said, completed my articles. People have had very traumatizing experiences with articles, and I think I'm part of the handful who had very healthy experiences. It was grueling, it was a test of character. It definitely helped me really refine a lot of my skill sets, but for the most part, it was an enabling environment for me to truly step into myself and identify various aspects of myself that I wanted to really put out there. And so, post admission, I'm currently clerking at the Constitutional Court, which has been a dream of mine. I applied twice and only got in on the third time, and for me, that's just been a dream come true. Clerking at the Constitutional Court has been a very humbling experience. Definitely, I'm not a judge. I've never sat before the JSC like Prof. Duplessis, and been asked about the classical grievance rule, but it's such a humbling experience because you get to sit with some of the best legal minds at Apex Court, and they want to hear about what you think of the law. You sit and listen to some of the best senior counsels in this country, and you get the first bite at the cherry where you engage with your judge on the matters, and that for me has been so fulfilling. And ultimately, my takeaway is take a bet on yourself. I think that's what I've been doing, and it's worked out for me. Taking it a bit back, when I took a bet on myself, I applied to the Constitutional Tribunal when I was in my third year, and I just applied to be a judge. And surprisingly, a JSC-filled panel decided to appoint me as the Chief Justice, which I just found shocking because I didn't even tick that box. And that for me was what taught me to take a bet on myself. I don't have an LLM, but I still applied to be a law researcher, and I got in. So ultimately, like I said, the key takeaway is take a bet on yourself. I'm very tempted to say, have the attitude of a mediocre white man. They're the one set of people who will just never, ever sell themselves short. So, yeah.
Hi everyone, my name is Dr. Princess Mube, and I'm also a lecturer here at the University of Pretoria. And I don't think there's anything much to say because she's a law clerk, I was a law clerk. They are lecturers, they've said I'm part of being a lecturer. So now I'm just like, that imposter syndrome is really kicking in right now. So just a bit about myself. I did my LLB at Northwest University, and I did my master's. My master's, I didn't do it with as a research, as coursework. I did it as a full research. That's where my love for research came. So I also did that in 9 months. So at that time, I was a full-time student. And when I did it in 9 months, I was just like, what? This is really incredible. But then, what's the next step? And then the following year, I registered for my LLD, and then same time I also got to do articles at the I also had to clerk at the Constitutional Court. So now I had two babies. I had the Concord and I had my LLD. And at that time, I really, really wanted my LLD, and also I really, really wanted to be good at the Constitutional Court. So what I did was, I did both at the same time. And still, in 2 years, I finished my PhD. And for me, there is like, looking back at where I'm from a small village called Mafikeng, and I wouldn't dare dream to sit here. When I was in grade 10 in 2010, I wouldn't think I'd be where I am today. Today, I sit in, there's a project that I'm busy with where we deal with policy, doing the accountability framework, and I sit with MECs, I sit with the Premier, and in my head I'm just like, definitely this is not me, I'm still dreaming. But I hope this story inspires somebody who's sitting right there and thinking, oh, well, I'm from Mamelodi, I'm from Mafikeng, what's this? Oh, she's definitely smart. I've never been the top of my class. I was always this cool student who worked hard. I had good grades, but not the best. And in my head, I've always told myself that if you put me in a room with the most brilliant, I'll also be among the brilliant students, or the most brilliant. And today, I sit as one of also the first people who wrote on AI in my PhD, because I did my PhD in AI and money laundering. And by then, AI was this thing where we're like, what is this? It's just gonna blow over. And today, I see being recommended as one of the people like, oh, if you wanna know something about AI, ask Princess, she's there. And I hope this inspires somebody out there. And I think one thing I wanna leave with each and every one of you today is always remember your why. I've been in rooms with the most intimidating people and I still excelled. And it's because I always remembered why I'm here. And the other thing is build a network, trust yourself, and also identify your mentors at an early age. Because at an early stage, because I was always curious, so I would go to my lecturers and say, "You're a professor, what does that mean?" Because I didn't know what it means to be a professor in law. And they would explain, so this is basically what you do. And in my head, I'm just like, I'm gonna do that. Then I go to a judge and I'm like, tell me, what made you who you are today? And they'll tell me, oh, this is I'm just like, maybe not. I want to be a professor. So for me, it's like I had mentors. I sat down with people and I tackled mine, and that led me to who I am today. I haven't reached where I want, but hopefully soon. So thank you so much.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Yvonne Princess Shabangu. I am an LLM in banking law graduate and admitted attorney for the High Court, and I'm founder of Employment Wednesdays, a platform that focuses on career education. And within Employment Wednesdays, I've got a series, Law Without Borders, which focuses on educating legal minds on various career options they can take. Because I mean, we do have a misconception that we either have to be advocates or attorneys, and we don't have to be. I'm an aspiring lecturer. I think in my career map, it ends with being in academia. So this is very inspiring, being part of a panel of people who are doing what I would want to do. My journey has been quite interesting because I'm the first lawyer in my family. And I thought for you to become a lawyer, you just go get your LLB and go to court. I did not know that you had to do articles. I did not know that you had to do board exams, law school. And every time a person asks me about the experience of doing articles, I always say it's like military training, because it's so hard. It's not even, sometimes you can get, I did my articles at the most beautiful law firm, right? My bosses were amazing and everything. But law is hard. Like, I think people don't tell us that a lot. Law is hard. Sometimes it's not even about the environment or anything along those lines. Just being in law is complex because we solve hard problems. Like, people rely on us. People see us and they see superheroes. Like, in all aspects of law, even as academics, even as in-house. So I did my articles. Before doing my articles, I got a rude awakening in my third year. I didn't know about articles. In my third year, all my friends were signed at big law firms. So everybody's like, yeah, I was signed. Where are you going? I'm like, what do you guys mean? Where am I going? I'm going to be a lawyer. I'm going to represent people. And then no, you have to get articles. Then I started my journey of looking for articles in my third year. Then I had an unfortunate accident that took me out. So I started getting interviews in my fourth year. Then I had an unfortunate accident that almost took me out. I had to cancel out all of those interviews. So I couldn't walk, and like I was just almost bedridden. So the only energy I had was to finish my degree. So now it meant I was part of the stats of unemployed graduates. So in that, then I started Employment Wednesdays because I figured out, there's so many people that are out there that don't know how to get to where they would like to be. I started Employment Wednesdays, and then I also then enrolled for my master's in banking law. And then when I enrolled for my master's in banking law, I got done with that, and then I got articles. When I got articles, I remember so many times I wanted to quit. I love how one of the panelists in the previous conversations mentioned how you will always know. Like, your body will tell you where you belong. Most of the times we look for these big things. We want this 10-step processing of telling us what is for us, but your body will tell you. I remember 1 year, 8 months into my articles, the puzzle was not fitting. Like, I could do the work, but I just felt misplaced and I wanted to quit. Then I remember one of my friends convincing me and saying, Yvonne, it's just a few months. Just finish, you get admitted, and then you're going to leave and do whatever you like. And I finished through, right? And I was fortunate that when I finished, I got an opportunity to go in-house. And then when I went in-house, I worked for LegalWise in the labor department. Then I found love with helping. I think one of the things that made me resonate with LegalWise is that they help a lot of previously disadvantaged people, and like the panelist from the public law did say, transformation is very slow in our country, you know, in as much as we want to give and represent people, usually the people that need us the most cannot afford us. So it's always so beautiful being part of organizations or being part of panels or systems that actually do their best to help those that cannot afford. So that's what I'm currently doing. And then I transitioned Employment Wednesdays into a podcast that has career conversations that focuses on career development through career conversations, where I have different guests doing different things in different industries, share their journeys into how they got there. Because another thing that I noticed, there is a gap between high school, university, and work life. So it's almost as if you always get a shock. When I transitioned from high school, I was one of the best learners in my school. Then I get to university, my first class, I went to UJ. We also made the best university in Africa, so. I get to UJ, on our first lecture, we always get this lecture to say, it's 500 of you now. By the time you graduate, it's going to be 100 of you and all of that. And when we got that lecture, I'm sitting next to one classmate, right? I'm like, you know, I got 98 in tourism, and then he says to me, oh, well, I've got 99 in accounting. Then you realize that you're seated now amongst the best. So that creates a culture shock. Because where I come from, I'm the best, and you know that actually validates your pride, your ego, your confidence and everything. Now you're in a room full of brilliant minds, and nobody prepares you for that, especially when you come from previously disadvantaged groups, or if you're the first of your generation. So there's that shock now. And then there's 500 of you. Maybe you're not an extrovert. Now you need to make friends. There's a social shock. And also there's the whole shock of knowing that you don't have one-on-one with your class teacher, or your teacher's not gonna call you and be like, hey, where's my homework? With university, if you don't submit your assignments, nobody's gonna go after you. You just forfeit marks. If you don't show up for an exam, nobody's gonna go after you. You have to take up that role and put yourself out there and be the one to consult with your lecturers and be the one to place yourself in rooms. And then now you go into the workplace as well. As you go into the workplace, you also get a professional shock, because now you're used to things by the book, you're used to 5 steps, you're used to theory and all of that. Now you get into a space where people's lives depend on you, where your mistake can cost millions. And I think that's the worst thing about like corporate, because your mistakes cost money, you know. But I was also so fortunate. My director used to say, in law we can fix everything. So he would always let me make mistakes or let me do things my way, with that mindset of saying, we can always fix it, and also giving me room to learn. But also I do appreciate that it's not everybody that has that privilege of being mentored or being supervised by people that give them an opportunity to be themselves. And with everything that I have been through, doing different things, I'm also considering, actually I submitted my proposal, I'm just waiting for feedback to go into my PhD in labor laws relating to employee rights. So I've been a person that I explore a lot, and which is something that I would recommend to people. We are multifaceted human beings. Never limit yourself to one thing. It's good to be an expert. It's good for people to know you for a particular thing. But do not be married to that idea. You know, don't go in community or property, go out of. You know, knowing that you can always have other options, and knowing that you can always learn, you know. And one of the things that I would like to recommend to every person that's here, people are not going to call you to the party, you have to go to the party. You have to, it's one thing being empowered, it's one thing having the information and all of that, but we just need to put ourselves in rooms where our futures are being decided for us so that we are part of the decision making. I'm really inspired by Dr. Ngube, whereby she says she sits with premiers. I think that's we want that for young people, we want that for women, you know, that we are part of those people making decisions so that our futures are not decided for us. Because I think one of the reasons why our systems are flawed is because we don't have representation in those rooms. So I'll say in everything that you do, I love what my co-panelists say, that it's important to know your why, and it's important to see yourself. I'm a firm believer of writing things down. Most of the things that have happened in my life are things that I've penned down years back, you know. And when you're able to write it down, you are able to see it. And when you're able to see it, you're able to become it. But if you don't have an image of it, you won't be able, like it's harder to become it, you know. These days we say, if there's no photo of it, it never happened. So create a picture of your future. Just a week ago, I did an exercise. What is an ideal 26-year-old Yvonne? And I wrote down everything. And then I asked myself, what is stopping me? And the answer was nothing. Then the following day, I woke up and decided to do the small things that will contribute to the ideal person that I want to become. Because sometimes we think it's the big steps, but it's the little things that you do every single day that get you to where you want to be. And in rounding up, I just want to speak on genuine network. It's important to get the knowledge and get the network. Sometimes, and I think it's unfortunate that's the type of world that we live in, sometimes it's not in the process of black and white, it's in the process who's mentioning your name in certain rooms, right? And I'm not saying be in a network because you want things from people and all of that. Build genuine networks whereby people are able to remember you because also you have an offering to make. Because it's one thing being recommended and you don't have an offering to make, that it becomes a daunting exercise. But make sure that you surround yourself with people that are able to inspire you, people that are able to help you do better, and people that are able to sponsor you and mention you in rooms that you cannot be in or show up for yourself. And yeah, I just want to let you know that you can become anything you would like to be. There's no limitation.
I think in wrapping up this session and today, I just have one more question for our panelists and myself. Is if there was one piece of advice that you could have given yourself many years ago, you can determine the age, what would that be? Knowing what you know now, your lived experiences that you have now, what would that piece of advice be? I think I'll start this way.
You don't have to go into practice. It's really not worth it. Yeah, because now I want to be a lecturer, right? And I didn't know. So my thinking was you had to go into practice. So knowing what I know now, I would have just done my LLB, LLM, LLD and made sure that I progress with that. So you don't have to go into practice.
So, my advice would be, you know, when I was at Concord, right, I'm more from a corporate world, I'm more into banking law, and going to constitutional court opened my eyes into what can I do better in my corporate, how can I help people in this corporate world, right? So today, I introduced financial inclusion in my module in the banking law, where I deal with social justice issues, where you see people, not everyone here is financially literate, no matter your degrees. Some people are not financially literate. And I introduce things like, there are people who are South African who do not have ideas, and how that impacts their life is they can't open a bank account, which also impacts the other things such as your employment, you getting a house, you getting all those human rights, right? So my advice to myself would be, there are no limits. You can do anything like you don't have to be full, because if I knew what I knew today, back then, my research, my PhD wouldn't have been so corporate, would have involved how to help other people. But I'm glad my research now is navigated towards helping people, especially my community, because I'm just like, I can't help the entire South Africa. I'll start with where I'm more exposed at. So yeah.
My piece of advice for my younger self would be to have fun and not be so serious. That's basically it. To just enjoy it and be present. I don't think it's necessary to always be so serious and the marks for everything and cum laude, this and the society and that. Enjoy it and make time for your friends and your family and your pets and yourself. That's it.
I think I would have told my younger self, and my younger self, I mean just like a few years ago, not that far back. I would have told first year me that it's not just a buzz phrase saying that I'm at like the #1 law faculty. I really am. I think in retrospect, I think I took advantage of that. So I would have told myself that fully immerse yourself in student culture and read. Definitely read more, read beyond what's prescribed, read beyond just your discipline of law, read across disciplines, and yeah, read more. Don't read the sappy media summaries, read the actual case. I think that's what I would have told myself.
I have two pieces of advice for myself. And we had about a day to reflect on this, so it was one of the questions we had initially prepared for today. And the first one really starts with comparing opportunity and disappointment and holding your nerve in that moment. In stressful situations, we often forget our training. And I always tell the law students that I've been working with final years now, third years, but they have 3-4 years, some of them heading into 5 years theoretical experience. They have determination. They've gotten to this point because of that. And I think we need to be kinder to ourselves because we tend to judge our future self, but we're not that yet, and that's okay. The process of becoming and the becoming of age is your journey, it's your story. And that's why we have so many different finish lines, because our narrative changes. So it's not always, 3 minutes, I've come along, I say a lot in 3 minutes. Opportunity versus disappointment and holding your nerve for me really comes from one very defining experience. I did the New York bar process, and I'm now in the process of actually trying to finish my admission in that jurisdiction. And I did it really to challenge my thought processes. It's less about the jurisdiction and the law practiced in that jurisdiction, but the respect I have for the way in which they assess their students stepping into practice. And I've been practicing for 3-4 years when I did it. And so I had a solid legal mind that I've been working on daily. But I can tell you now that stepping into that space and holding your nerve was one of the most difficult things I had to do. And you think it's just the bar, but there's really multiple assessments, multiple different months that you're committing to this. And to find that grit, to see it through for yourself, that's something that comes with age. So be kinder to myself in that regard. And I'm going to jump on what you said about reading. I tell my students there's a lot to be said for being well read and to have the courage to say, I don't know. I still don't know so much, and I'm okay with that. I'm okay with standing in front of a class of over 600 students and saying, you know what, great question. I might have a point of reference, but I don't know. I'm going to go find out for you, and we can continue this conversation. Do you know? It's not a top-down approach. It's a conversation. We learn from one another. So that's the 2 pieces of advice. Be okay, be kind to yourself, be okay with disappointment. There's no lost opportunities. Somebody else just took it. And acknowledge that you don't have to step straight into practice. There's no timeline on your career. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much to the last panel. It was so great to hear, you know, your brief histories and then what you would have done differently. And for many of you, it was like yesterday what you would have done differently. So I appreciate the reflection that you already have in that regard in such a short period of time. But it's also good to hear that the journeys were all different, and you know how you actually find fulfillment in each of those journeys. Journeys are individual. I always tell young staff members, when you're in academia, you stop competing, because when you're at school, when you're studying for your degree, you're more or less on the same level, right? But once you enter academia, the circumstances of each staff member are so different. You know, I might have 2 little babies at home. You know, my male counterpart does not have that. So that kind of thing, and you should just focus on your career, your journey. Don't look sideways all the time. What is this one now doing? Oh, this one just got a doctorate. You know, this one just got this. You know, no. It's a lot of negative energy that you spend doing that. So just focus on where you want to go. Thank you very much to the panel again. And I think, we still have gifts for you. And thank you for doing the final panel of the afternoon and for doing it so well. So,